Hi, this is Bert Burger, and right now I'm going to take you through some of the features of our Acid Model SUP. Now, this is probably one of my personal favourites in the range. This is a real high performance SUP. This one can handle speed and it can handle sucky, bowly parts of the wave. So one of the outstanding features of this board is it has a lot of outline curve. So it's basically like a high performance shortboard. So because it has so much curve through the middle, what that means is as you first take off, it's really free to trim. Drop, climb, so it'll really fit into tighter parts of the wave. Now, with going to the takeoff now, what happens is when you drop into a sucky wave, if you have a bottom edge that's too hard, as it drops in late, that edge has so much release that as it lands mid-face or drops in late, it can start to skate and slide. So what happens with this rail is the rail is really tucked under and soft up through the middle. So what that does is that really helps to make the rail hug the face, and especially hug a vertical face and have sort of more control. Now when you're in fast, powerful waves and bowly waves, one of the things you want to do is sometimes you want to be able to wash off speed. Now when you have a lot of area in your tail, as you stomp onto the tail and try to slow the board down and do a stalling maneuver, the board wants to climb up out of the water and get all unstable. So on this one, we have this really pulled in, super tight tail. And you'll also notice it has a quite extreme flyer and hip. Okay, so as you're on the rail and you're leaning mid-rail, you can hold a bit of a line. But then as you step back onto the tail, this pronounced flyer and hip really enables it to square off a bottom turn. So you can really get it like almost vertical off the bottom, but then at the same time you can step back onto this tight tail and literally wash off speed. It's almost like you can hit the brakes. So it enables you to get it into tight parts of the wave and into bowly parts of the wave and literally be able to wash off excess speed and keep some control. So another outstanding feature of this board is the thickness of the rails. The board has a really thin rail. Like for an SUP, it's quite fine. So this does a number of things. One is, whenever you go into a turn, the first thing you need to do is bury one rail. So you don't have this big fat rail that you're trying to bury, so it's not corky, so it really knifes in like a bladey sort of rail. It drops in and you can penetrate it into the water, and that gives you more bite and it enables you to bury the rail deeper. Now the other interesting thing about that too is that because it has a fair bit of deck roll and a low rail, is that when you're paddling at low speeds, it's a lot more stable. So I know it sounds counterintuitive that a thin rail would be more stable, but what happens is this: the rail is submerged by water as you're paddling at low speed. So when you've got a very thick rail, the board sits on top of the water like a cork and really kind of, bobs around. And so when you step on one rail, it sort of goes in, corks back out. But with the rail being low and water being over the rail, it means that for the board to move around, it literally has to lift that water up with it. So that water sitting on top of the rail means it's really stable for paddling and really stable at low speeds. But then when you're really up and going at high speeds, you can bury this rail for performance. Another feature with this board is we have a single concave running through it, blending into a double concave through the tail. So this is sort of more typical of your high performance shortboards, but obviously being an SUP, it's wide, so you need as much help as possible to get it up onto the rail. And same through the tail end with the concave, it means that it redirects the flow of water so that the water is releasing slightly in that direction, which means if the board's up the other way, it's just going to help to lift that outside rail up a bit more, give it a bit more bite, give it a bit more hook. So in general, the Acid is a really high performance SUP. Low rails, fits in, you can surf the sucky parts of a wave on it. You know, guys can get barreled on it, they can stall for barrels, they can hook under the lip. It's a really good high performance SUP all round.